Your story matters, let it be told. When everything changed.
Hey, this is Wendy again with When Stories, the podcast. I'm here with Tracy Beavers. And Tracy has a very unique story. And I'd like her just, if you want to introduce yourself real quick, Tracy.
Yeah, absolutely, Wendy. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. So I'm Tracy Beavers. I'm a business and sales coach from Little Rock, Arkansas. I'm a wife, a mom to two grown adults, which blows my mind, and a dog mom. The dog is the only child left in the house now. New empty nesters trying to get used to the idea. And I've been in the online space about 7 years. And my focus for helping my clients is helping them gain massive visibility online without having to be on it 24/7, and all of that leading to list growth that happens automatically every day in the background of their business.
I love that. And so with When Stories, right, we go back to those pivotal moments when everything changed for you and then the story emerges. So I'd love for you to share, your when moment. When did everything change for you?
I remember it vividly, Wendy. The minute you and I were talking about this, I was like, I know exactly when it happened. And I was working in a corporate. So I was raised in the generation where you go to high school, go to college, graduate, you get the job, you're happy with the job, you're thankful for the job, and you don't leave the job for 40 years and then you get to retire. But along around 2005, that the corporate industry started to shift, downsizing, right sizing, layoffs, all that stuff. And I was like, holy mackerel. I was like, what's going on? Nobody told me this was going to happen. And so fast forward through the good corporate girl that I was, rising through the ranks, over 20 years in marketing and sales and business development. And I went into sales excited about it because not only was I really good at it, but also I knew I didn't have true control over my time being working for somebody else. It's an 8 to 5, a 9 to 5, whatever. You get a 1 hour lunch, all that stuff. But being in a sales role with a commission structure, technically you're supposed to be able to make as much money as you want. And I remember the day that I realized that wasn't true. And I was working for a title insurance company. They had asked me to come over and gain market share for them. And I did that. I gained them 86% of the market share the first year I was there. And we were on track to grow another 38% or 42 or something, I don't know what, in the second year. And the CEO actually had the nerve to tell me he really didn't think I was going to be that successful. And he was going to change the commission plan to suit the company. And I literally was like, you've got to be kidding me. What in the world? Here I was thinking I had control over my money. Nope. No control over my time, no control over my money.
Wow. So that had to be quite a shift then, right? So where did you move from there? Would you just tell him to take his job and shove it, or where did you go from there?
I did. It took me a hot second to really, and I pushed back a little bit. I was like, you realize the more money I make, the more you're making. Clearly there was something wrong with the accounting on the back end. I'm not really sure exactly what happened, but he definitely didn't know how to motivate a sales force. And so I waited for him to rewrite the contract. I read through it. He didn't realize I had a background in contracts. And I just said to him, this language in here is really ambiguous. And he wasn't willing to change anything, and he wasn't willing to negotiate anything. And I just said, okay, I think I know what I need to do next. And I started looking for something else because there was no way that I could move forward and trust him and feel good about representing the company. And so I did start looking for another job, but also the seed was planted that I could go get another job, but the same thing was probably going to happen. So while I was looking for something else, I started thinking to myself, okay, Tracy, is corporate really where you want to be? Because there had been signs for years, the last few years. I think God throws little rocks at us and pebbles and then hits us with a brick wall. Unfortunately, I need to be hit with brick wall. And so I was like, okay, well, corporate is clearly not a good fit for me anymore. But now what am I going to do? And so I did some reflecting through a women's mastermind I was in. And they helped me realize that I could take my 20 years of experience in sales and marketing and business development and create a business of my own. And that's when I decided I was going to launch my online business. And I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I thought, okay, I'm going to be a business and sales coach. And I had to build this alongside my full-time job because we're a double income household. And my husband would have thought I'd lost my mind if I told him I was just going to quit cold turkey. So I started as a business and sales coach, totally general, not niched at all. And I extended an invitation to my warm market here, people that had known me and worked with me for years. And so I started helping them build their businesses. And then it eventually evolved into what it is now, which is global clients and fully online.
So I want to go back to that moment when you, like you said, you went to the mastermind.
Mhm.
I mean, how is it so different? Because obviously going from corporate to owning your own business, there's some Jedi mind tricks that your mind plays on you, right? Did you have imposter syndrome sneak in? What did that look like in the very beginning stages? Because obviously you weren't, overnight like, oh, I'm making millions of dollars, right?
Yeah, no, it was scary. I still have days where I have imposter syndrome. All these years later, all this success later, I've coached hundreds of people over the years, and I still have days where I'm like, am I really good at what I'm doing? You know what I mean?
Right.
Stupid
Yeah.
voice that gets in your head. But yeah, for sure, it was very scary. My father worked for himself. He was an architect. He worked for himself for most of my life, and he did not make small business ownership look glamorous at all. Like that is one of the reasons why I never considered being self-employed. And so I was nervous about the money. I was nervous about, am I actually going to make a difference for people? Is this going to work? I had all that stuff going through my head. But I also had that that feeling of, okay, if I don't try this, I'm going to be really disappointed in myself. And if it doesn't work out, it's okay. I can always, go find another job. Um, so I just had to talk myself through it a lot. What kind of offer did I want to put out there? What kind of pricing did I want to have? And there was a whole conversation with myself about pricing, because most of the time we don't charge what we should. And I didn't. I look back at those rates I charged in the beginning, and I'm just laughing at myself. I'm like, holy cow, Tracy Beavers.
So you said you were working for a while, like when you were starting this business.
Yeah.
So where was the jumping off point from that? Like, where did you say, okay, I am overwhelmed. I need to get this business going and I can't do both things at the same time and be successful. When was
Yep.
that point for you?
The decision was made for me. So it
Oh,
took me, I was building alongside my corporate career for about a year and a half, I want to say.
okay.
And the company that I was working for, they decided to shutter the office here in Little Rock. Laid
Oh,
everybody off. Yeah. And so at the end of, gosh, I can't even remember what year it was now, but I remember at the end of that year, starting in the next year, I wasn't going to have a job. And I said to my husband, thankfully, by that point, I had proof of concept. I had clients that were hiring me. Word of mouth was spreading. I was figuring things out. And I had banked a lot of my business income. I kept things really lean, and I just put everything I was making into my business bank accounts, obviously paying taxes and all that stuff too. But so at that point, I had a pretty good nest egg built up. And I said to my husband, I'd really like to make this fly. And he said, okay, cool. And he said, he's so sweet. And he said, let's see where you are about 6 months from now. And in my head, I went, uh-huh, you just watch me, sir. Just watch me.
yeah. So, going from that, having the backup of a corporate paycheck, then making your own paycheck, even though you have it banked and stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
how did that affect like your home life and all that? Like, did that just go along pretty well? Like everything was with building your business? How did that look?
It was a juggle, because at the time, of course, I had more time in my day, obviously, because I didn't have the job.
Right.
But that's difficult. You wake up one morning and you're an entrepreneur and you're like, wow, I really am the chief cook and bottle washer here. When you get a job, you get the name tag, you get the parking space, you get the desk, the computer, the job description, all the things. I had to figure this out on my own. I was like, oh boy. So that was interesting, but it was still a juggle, because at the time our kids were in high school and middle school, and they were busy. They played every sport that had a ball. And so I had to really set some boundaries around my time. And just because mom's working from home doesn't mean you can call her and say, would you bring me Chick-fil-A for lunch? Or, the termite inspection guy needs to come do the annual termite inspection. Oh, mom's home. Just have her, so it took a little bit for my family to adjust to the fact that just because I'm working from home doesn't mean that I don't have a job that requires me to have time and intentionality with it during regular business hours. And so that took a little bit for them to kind of get used to that, and me saying, I'm my own boss now. I do get to make the rules, but I've got to put in a lot of hours to make this thing work. And I
Oh, and
did put in a lot
I
of
bet a
hours.
lot of women relate with that, setting those boundaries. I worked from home for a short time as well, and yeah, I can't talk about SpongeBob right now. I'm trying to work.
I know. I'll never forget one time my husband texted me and said, the plumber's on his way. He'll be there in about 15 minutes. And I was like, I am about to get on a Zoom call with a client. And so I just told him, I said, I love you so much, but if you're going to schedule a service worker to come to the house, you're going to need to be here. And he's like, even though you're there, I'm like, yes, I'm working.
Wow.
I'm not
You know,
on the couch watching Netflix.
yeah. So was that a little bit of a struggle? Obviously, you had to set those boundaries, but that's still a hard situation for many people, entrepreneurs who work from home. People like think it's just a hobby.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. Oh, I still have family members. Last Christmas, one of them said to me, so are you working? And I just took a sip of my wine, and I went, yeah, uh-huh. I'm a business coach. What I wanted to say was something super snarky, like, yes, I have clients all over the world, and I have a over 6-figure a year business.
Yeah.
Any other questions? But I didn't want to be that person. But in my mind, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And truly, like here in Arkansas, I have not met a lot of online entrepreneurs that are doing what I'm doing. And so I don't think people they don't really get it. Because I still get a lot of confusion about that too. Now, what are you doing? Anyway, yeah, that's been fun.
Wow. So what's the time period then? So between that first corporate job where you basically had to tell them to stick the job to now, how long is that process? I mean, how many years is that in between? And
So I think, if I recall correctly, I started building about 7 years ago,
okay. Oh,
and
okay.
then it took almost 2 years to completely exit. And so I guess now I guess I'm in year 4 or 5. I'm not sure. The pandemic made everything really blurry.
Right. Oh, that's, I suppose, yeah, the pandemic especially, which you were already online, so you were kind of ahead of the curve, right?
Yes. Yeah. Thankfully in 2020, and that was a really good year for a lot of people in the online space because,
Yeah.
courses sold really well and people were interested in doing different things. And, I was also during that time a consultant through the University of Arkansas here in Little Rock. They have a small business technology development center. And during the pandemic, they had an influx, just completely overloaded with people that had gotten laid off and thought, well, I'll start a business, or were bored with their job and being at home and thought, I'll start a side hustle. And so ended up doing, they asked me to come on their team as a consultant and help with the overflow. So yeah, 2020 was a pretty big year.
Wow. That's amazing. And so how would you say your corporate, like going from working for somebody in corporate to now helping people with being a business coach, what tools and things have you brought over to your coaching? What things do you use now? Does it? Do you even go back into that corporate lifestyle and kind of utilize those tools and things you had before?
That's a great question. So, being in sales all those years, the sales part is the same. It's just
Mm,
the location of the conversation that has changed.
mm,
So, networking, for example, I've always been a master connector. I love to network with people. And so, it took a little getting used to because I was here at the house by myself. I wasn't going out to the chamber event or the Rotary Club or the BNI group or whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, where are all the people? So I had to figure out where to find people to virtually network with. And then also the foundation of understanding networking, the follow up, making the connection, making the sale, all of those things were the very same from corporate. Because really, at the end of the day, networking is just having a conversation with somebody else. And it doesn't matter if it's in person or on Zoom. And
right.
then, sales is really just making a connection with another human being and finding out how you can help them. And the sale will always take care of itself. If it's a good fit, it will. If it's not, that's okay. You never know where that connection is going to lead. And so that part I brought over straight from corporate. My ability to teach and train, part of my job in corporate was teaching and training on stage to groups. And so,
Mm,
that part came over with me just fine. And I think the part that didn't completely translate, but kind of did, was strategy when it comes to marketing, when it comes to business growth, because it shifted. It went from the strategies that I was using to build a brick and mortar in-person business locally versus the strategies that I would use to build virtually and online. Some of the strategies were similar, but I had to switch it over and put on my online hat. And I had a lot to learn. My gosh, I felt like everybody was talking a different language when I got over here. I was like, what in the world?
Wow. So go a little bit deeper on what you just said. So how was it so different? Like, was it just because you're marketing a little bit different through social media, or what did that look like?
Yeah, for sure. So it's building an online business, you've got to utilize social media. So I had to learn. I went all in on Facebook. Did not have time for the other platforms. I would just sprinkle content over on Instagram and LinkedIn, but not really being intentional about that at all. So going all in on Facebook and learning the nuances of the platform and understanding algorithm and what is the platform reward and what is the platform looking for us to do so that we get the reward of the visibility. So that was completely different because I know what I would have done, um, boots on the ground in person.
Right.
That was easy, but it was coming into this space and figuring out, okay, what is going to attract my ideal client from social media and creating a lead magnet. That was new to me. And we talked about before we hit the recording button, a funnel. I mean, I had sales funnels, but I didn't even think about them when I was in corporate. I just moved people through my sales process. I didn't think about it as a funnel. And I get in the online space and they're like, you got to have a list growth funnel and a lead magnet funnel and this and that. I'm like, I don't understand what you people are talking about. And the tech part, that was a massive learning curve too, because tech is not my love language. I'm a words girl all day long. Marketing, sales, give me a stage and a microphone and I'm happy. Ask me to do something in Kajabi and you will see me cry. I mean, like, no, I don't want to do it. So that was different too, was figuring out the tech because that was not something that I had to do in corporate at all. We had teams for that.
So now you're at 7+ years later from that corporate job. So, where are you at now with everything? How does your business and life look now?
It looks vastly different and it's so fun. So and to some degree, I have some control over my time and my money, but I still don't have full control like I thought I would. Everybody
Hmm.
talks about the what is it, the laptop lifestyle. You can just jet off to Paris tomorrow because you can work from anywhere. No, not at least not for me. Not exactly. But what's fun is I am able to control my time and be way more intentional about like during the summer when our son is home from college. I try not to be super busy. And my mom, helping take care of her now. We're getting ready to move her here in another month, and I'm real excited about it. She's going to live in a swanky, cute apartment not far from us. But that's nice because I can pack up my laptop and go. Right now, she lives 2 hours away, and I can work from there if I need to. So that's nice. But the money has taken care of itself. I've hit my income goals every year. I'm not making $1 million a year. I don't know that I need to. My launches, when I launch my program, they're not 6-figure launches, but that's okay. I have the kind of success that I want to have, and I feel like that's what's important. I think in the online space, we have a lot of pressure to be a millionaire and work, 5 hours a week or whatever. And it's like, it's not really realistic. I still work a lot of hours, but mostly because I love it. And I do work on weekends some when I need to fine tune something. But it's fun to for example, last spring we were able to go visit our son when he was studying in Madrid for spring break, and I was still able to work even though the time zone difference was different. But I was also able to unplug quite a bit because I have an assistant, which is great.
Mm.
And then I went to Paris in May to see his girlfriend because she was studying there, and my business didn't miss a beat. So over the years, I've added some team members, which has been fun. I have an assistant now, and my son's my podcast manager, which has been really fun. And then I have a project launch manager that works with me as needed. So
That's awesome. I love that you have help and that, you have those people around you because that really does make a big difference. So what advice would you give to somebody who's maybe in corporate or just working that 9 to 5 and they're on that fence where you were at? What advice would you give them to kind of either get them off the fence or kind of like nurture them off the fence?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's really scary, but I would encourage them to take a minute and quiet the noise in their head, around them, everywhere. Go sit in your car with the radio off and just think to yourself, what would I love to do? What would make me really happy? What are you good at that people ask you about all the time? Most of the time, that answer is something you can make a business out of. I didn't realize that not everybody was good at sales. I mean, I just never did until some of my friends were like, people come to you to ask you all the time for marketing advice and how you can grow a business so fast. Why don't you use those gifts? And I was like, oh, huh, all right. And so I think a lot of times we don't see the business opportunities that are staring us in the face. And so think to yourself, what do you really love to do? What are you really good at? What could you do that if nobody paid you, you'd still want to do it? And then research it a little bit and decide. Make the decision. You do not have to leave your corporate job immediately. You can do what I did and build slowly, stick your toe in the water, get some experience, get some clients, get some money coming in, see if you like it. And then I had an exit strategy. So over the years, I took lower corporate, not lesser stress, less stressful corporate jobs that paid less as my income started to grow, so that I could, um, get to a place where I could just step completely out of corporate. I couldn't just leave it and start, the business. So a lot of people will do that. Just use a step down approach where it's like, okay, well, my business income is growing, so I'll go. Maybe there's a position I could take that would be remote where I could have more time to work on my business during the day or part time or something like that. So it doesn't
I
have
like
to be all the same thing.
Yeah, it's good advice because sometimes we think it's an all or nothing. Like we have to leap into it. And then so many entrepreneurs, right? They don't make it to that 5 year mark. And it's because they didn't do kind of that balancing act of how to build my business while still paying my bills.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tracy, for being on the podcast. I really appreciate your time and your story.
Thanks so much, Wendy. I am flattered that you asked me.
So, how can people get a hold of you if they want to learn more about what you do or learn more about you in particular?
Yeah, a great way to connect with me is to check out my podcast. It's called Create Online Business Success. So it is actionable tactical strategies mixed with my goofball sense of humor. And people can get to know me, they can learn a lot, and then they can send me a DM or email me anytime and connect, especially if they're sitting in that cubicle and that job just feels like a jacket that's 2 sizes too small. Reach out, let's have a conversation.
That's awesome. And we'll leave in the show notes too. You'll be able to see Tracy's links as well so you can connect with her easier. So yeah, reach out if you're, as you described, the person that's got the jacket 2 sizes too small. I love that description because that's kind of what it feels like when you're sitting in a cubicle when you're
Yeah,
miserable in your job,
yeah,
you know. So yeah,
yes,
reach out to Tracy and yeah, have a conversation.
thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Your story matters.